First Contact and Invasion. Grand Marshal Xorax of the Khazari Empire stood before the massive holographic display, his scaled skin glinting under the harsh lights of the command deck. The star map showed dozens of newly discovered planetary systems along the Empire's expanding frontier. One system in particular was highlighted, a yellow sun with several orbiting planets, the third one marked with pulsing indicators. Tell me again why this insignificant system requires my personal attention, Xorax demanded, his four eyes narrowing at Science Director Vela. Vela's tentacles twitched nervously as she brought up detailed scans. The third planet and its colonies on the fourth planet, and several moons show signs of a spacefaring civilization, but one that's still in its infancy. Our preliminary assessments classify them as Category 4, minimal threat, optimal for resource extraction. Then why not simply send the standard acquisition fleet? Xorax's voice carried the impatience of a being who had overseen 1,000 conquests. There's something unusual about these beings, Grand Marshal. They call themselves humans. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, barely achieving rudimentary interplanetary travel. But their adaptability is remarkable. Vela's tentacles manipulated the display to show various human settlements on different worlds. They've managed to establish self-sustaining colonies in environments that should be hostile to their biology. Xorax waved a dismissive hand. Adaptability is hardly unique in the galaxy. The Morrigan adapted to methane atmospheres, yet they fell to our forces in less than a stellar cycle. Yes, but the humans have demonstrated something we've rarely encountered. They seem to form symbiotic relationships with other species from their homeworld. This caught Xorax's interest. The Khazari had long specialized in bioengineering creatures for war. It was their empire's greatest strength. The thought of another species independently developing similar capabilities was concerning. Show me these relationships. Vela displayed images of humans living alongside various creatures, some small and furry, others large and powerful. They call these domesticated animals, not merely tamed wild creatures, but species they selectively bred over thousands of years to serve specific functions. Xorax studied the images with growing interest. Are they using them as weapons? Some, yes, but mostly for labor, food production, and curiously, emotional companionship. Emotional companionship. Xorax sneered. Such weakness was typical of inferior species. Our xenopsychologists believe this unusual trait might make them vulnerable to our particular brand of warfare. Vela brought up another display showing the Khazari's latest bioengineered predators, the Nyx hunters. These humans form emotional attachments to other species. Imagine their psychological trauma when our hunters begin dismantling their carefully constructed ecosystems. Xorax's mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his kind. Prepare a deployment of Nyx hunters to their outermost colony. Let's see how these humans respond to real predators. Dr. Elena Reyes stood at the observation window of New Horizon Colony's research center, watching the red dust of Mars swirl in the wind. 3 years into her xenobiology research posting, and Mars still hadn't lost its alien beauty. The colony housed 5,000 people, scientists, engineers, miners, and their families, all working to establish humanity's first permanent foothold beyond Earth. Her comm unit buzzed. Elena, you need to get to the command center. Now. The voice of Commander Jian Chen was tight with tension. What's happened? She asked, already moving toward the door. Just get here. 10 minutes later, Elena stood with the colony's leadership team, staring at the display showing an unidentified vessel in orbit around Mars. It entered our space 3 hours ago, Commander Chen explained. No response to hails on any frequency. It's like nothing in our database. First contact, someone whispered. Elena felt a chill. Humanity had been broadcasting its presence into space for over a century, hoping for a response. Now that it had arrived, the silence was ominous. Wait, said Security Chief Liam Okafor, pointing at new data streaming in. They're launching something. multiple objects, descending toward the surface. "Probes?" asked Shen. "Too large," Okafor replied, "and they're heading for multiple locations around the colony perimeter." Alina's specialized tablet chimed with an alert from her research team. The atmospheric sensors were detecting biological signatures, large, complex organisms, not probes, living creatures. "Commander," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I think they're deploying biological agents." "You mean like a virus?" Chen asked. "No, much bigger." She showed him the readings. "Whatever these are, they're the size of large predators." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Sound the emergency protocols," Chen ordered. "All personnel inside the habitats. Security teams to defensive positions." As the alert klaxons began to wail throughout the colony, Alina asked the question everyone was thinking. Why would an advanced civilization capable of interstellar travel attack us with animals? The answer came 3 hours later, and it was worse than anyone could have imagined. The security camera feeds showed them clearly now. Glossy black creatures the size of tigers, but with 6 limbs and elongated heads filled with needle-like teeth. They moved with terrifying speed and coordination, testing the colony's perimeter defenses methodically. "They're intelligent," Alina observed, watching one of the creatures deliberately disable a sensor array. "And they seem immune to our standard defense measures." The colony's defensive turrets had fired on the creatures when they approached too close, but their hides seemed to absorb or deflect the energy pulses. Conventional bullets slowed them, but their regenerative abilities sealed wounds within minutes. "We've lost contact with Mining Outpost 3, Okafor reported grimly. Last transmission reported perimeter breach. Mining Outpost 3 had housed 200 people. Commander Chen's face was ashen. "Any response from Earth Command?" "Communications are being jammed," replied the comms officer. "We're on our own." Alina studied the creature's behavior, her scientific mind still functioning despite the horror. "They're hunting us. These aren't random attacks. They're hurting people, corralling them." "For what purpose?" Chen asked. Before Alina could speculate, alarms blared again. "Perimeter breach in Section 7. Someone shouted. "That's impossible," Okafor said. "Section 7 has our strongest defenses." The camera feeds showed 3 of the alien creatures working in tandem, 2 creating a distraction while a third dug under the barrier. "They're learning," Alina whispered, "adapting to our defenses in real time." Commander Chen made a decision. "We evacuate. Now. Emergency Protocol Omega. All personnel to the central hub. We'll make our stand there while evacuating as many as possible on the emergency shuttles." As the command center emptied, Alina remained transfixed by the monitors. Something about the creature's behavior triggered a memory from her research. The way they coordinated, communicated without vocalizing, adapted their strategies. She reached for her tablet and pulled up data from Earth's evolutionary history. The patterns matched. These alien creatures were behaving like Earth's pack hunters, wolves, lions, and other social predators. Whoever created them had studied Earth's predatory species and engineered something similar but far more lethal. A new alert drew her attention to another monitor. The external camera showed something moving outside the perimeter, but not the alien creatures. These were smaller, 4-legged, and moving with purpose toward the colony. Alina zoomed in, not believing what she was seeing. Dogs, dozens of them. Working military dogs from the colony's small security K9 unit, but also pet dogs owned by colonists. Labradors, shepherds, even a few small terriers. All moving with coordinated purpose unlike anything Alina had ever witnessed. And behind them, a figure in an environmental suit. Marisol Rodriguez, the colony's veterinarian and animal behaviorist. Alina grabbed her comm. "Commander, you need to see this." From the command center, they watched in astonishment as the dogs engaged the alien predators. The larger breeds, German shepherds, Rottweilers, and Malinois from the security force, confronted the creatures directly, not attacking individually but working in coordinated groups of 3 or 4, using pack tactics that the alien hunters seemed unprepared for. Meanwhile, the smaller breeds darted between the larger battles, nipping at the creatures' limbs and retreating before they could be caught, drawing the aliens into ambush positions. "This is impossible," Okafor muttered. "The K9 units are trained, yes, but the civilian dogs. And this level of coordination." Elena watched Marisol on the camera feed. The veterinarian stood at a distance, wearing what looked like a modified neural interface headset. "It's the EMI project," Elena realized. Marisol was testing enhanced mental interface technology with the working dogs. It was supposed to be for search and rescue operations in the mining tunnels. "You're telling me she's controlling those dogs telepathically?" Chen asked incredulously. "Not controlling, communicating. The ENI doesn't override the animal's will. It translates human intention into something they can understand and vice versa. It creates a feedback loop of shared awareness." On the screens, they could see the tide turning. The alien creatures were powerful and lethal, but they were fighting as individuals against a coordinated force that understood pack hunting on a genetic level. Dogs had co-evolved with humans for tens of thousands of years, developing an almost supernatural ability to read human intentions and work cooperatively. "Commander," Elena said urgently, "we need to get Marisol inside and scale this up. If her interface works with dogs, it might work with other domestic animals on the colony." Chen was already moving. "Okafor, send a team to escort Rodriguez to the main science lab. Dr. Rice, what other animals do we have on this colony that might help?" Elena's mind raced through the colony's inventory. The agricultural section has horses, several dozen cats for pest control, and there's the experimental habitat with the... She stopped, a new possibility occurring to her. "With what, Doctor?" Chen prompted. Elena looked up, her eyes wide with realization. "The zoo specimens, Earth's apex predators we've been studying for potential adaptation to terraformed environments." Understanding dawned on Chen's face. "You want to use Earth's predators against theirs." "They engineered their creatures based on an understanding of predator behavior," Elena said. "But they've never encountered Earth's real apex predator, the one that domesticated wolves into dogs thousands of years ago, that learned to ride horses into battle, that turned big cats into status symbols for kings." "Humans," Chen said softly. Elena nodded. "And we didn't just tame these animals, Commander. We formed partnerships with them. Relationships. These aliens sent hunters, but we've been living with hunters for our entire evolutionary history. On the monitor, they watched as Marisol and her canine army drove the alien creatures back from one section of the perimeter, creating a safe corridor for the security team to reach her. "Get her inside," Chen ordered, a new determination in his voice. "And contact Dr. Caftry in agricultural sciences. If we're going to war with biological weapons, let's show these aliens what Earth's children can really do." Above Mars, unnoticed by the humans fighting for survival below, 3 more alien ships emerged from hyperspace, their holds filled with thousands more engineered predators. The true invasion was just beginning. Humanity's counterstrike. Grand Marshal Xorax stared at the battlefield displays with mounting disbelief. The initial deployment of Nyx hunters to the human Mars colony should have resulted in complete subjugation within one planetary rotation. Instead, the hunters were being systematically driven back, contained, and in some cases, eliminated. "Explain this," he demanded, his voice dangerously quiet. Science Director Vela's tentacles moved nervously over her datapad. "The humans are employing indigenous Earth predators as countermeasures, most notably, canids they call dogs, descendants of wolves that they domesticated approximately 30,000 of their years ago. Domesticated wolves are defeating our Nyx hunters." Thorax's disbelief was tinged with rage. "The hunters are engineered from the genetic material of the most lethal predators from 17 conquered worlds. It appears the advantage lies not in the physical capabilities of these dogs, but in their neural connection with the humans, Vela explained. Our surveillance shows the humans using some form of technological interface to communicate directly with the animals, creating a level of coordination our hunters weren't programmed to anticipate. Tactical Officer Draz, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. There's more, Grand Marshal. The humans are deploying additional species. The main display shifted to show new footage from the Mars colony. Alongside the dogs, other four-legged creatures were now visible, larger, hoofed animals moving with surprising speed and power. They call these horses, Vela identified. Herbivores that humans domesticated for transportation and labor. They're using them to rapidly deploy their forces and evacuate civilians from threatened areas. Kexorax hissed in frustration. Herbivores. They're fighting our apex predators with plant eaters. Successfully fighting them, Draz pointed out, earning a withering glare from the Grand Marshal. The horses' mass and speed make them formidable in the open terrain around the colony. And there's more. The display changed again to show smaller, more agile creatures slipping through shadows, ambushing isolated Nyx hunters with surprising effectiveness. Felids, cats in their terminology, Vela explained. Another species they domesticated thousands of years ago, originally for pest control. They're using them for reconnaissance and targeted strikes against our hunters' sensory organs. Halora slammed a clawed hand against the command console. This is absurd. These are not warriors. They're servants, food sources, beasts of burden. With respect, Grand Marshal, Draz said carefully, that appears to be precisely why our intelligence assessments failed. We cataloged these creatures as subservient species the humans had conquered. We failed to recognize them as partners the humans had cultivated over millennia. Hectorax turned to his bioengineering chief. Deploy the second phase hunters, the ones with adaptive camouflage and enhanced regeneration. Let's see how their pets fare against true evolutionary perfection. There's one more development you should be aware of, Vela said hesitantly. The humans have released something else from their scientific facilities. Something concerning. Inside the New Horizon colony's main habitat, the atmosphere had transformed from one of desperate defense to organized counterattack. The central auditorium had been converted into a command center where Dr. Elena Reyes stood before holographic displays showing the colony's layout and the positions of both the alien hunters and humanity's growing animal army. The EMI network is holding stable with 57 dogs, 32 cats, and 17 horses now actively engaged, reported Marisol Rodriguez. The veterinarian looked exhausted but determined, her neural interface headset now refined and strengthened by the colony's engineering team. What about Dr. Kaftri's special project? Commander Chen asked. As if in answer, the habitat doors slid open, and Dr. Samira Kaftri entered alongside a tall figure in specialized containment armor. Behind them, held in check by a glowing energy leash, padded a creature that caused everyone in the room to step back instinctively. The Bengal tiger moved with liquid grace, its massive paws silent on the habitat floor, muscles rippling beneath orange and black fur. Its eyes, unnervingly intelligent, surveyed the room with predatory assessment. Subject Raja is fully interfaced and responsive, Dr. Kaftri announced. The ENI adaptation was successful. He understands the threat and has consented to assist. Elena approached slowly, maintaining eye contact with a massive felid. The neural connection is holding stable. The armored figure, Dr. Marcus Webb, the colony's zoological specialist, nodded. Better than stable. The emotional resonance is extraordinary. Raja was born in captivity as part of the Mars adaptation program, so he's accustomed to human interaction. But this is different. He's fully aware of what we're asking and why. Commander Chen looked skeptical. You're anthropomorphizing an animal, Doctor. No, Marcus countered firmly. That's the breakthrough. The ENI doesn't force human thought patterns onto animal cognition. It creates a translational interface between two different, but equally valid forms of intelligence. Raja understands that his territory is threatened by invading predators. That concept translates perfectly across species lines. On the monitors, they could see the alien ship deploying a new wave of hunters. These moved differently, more fluidly, with a chameleon-like ability to blend with their surroundings. "They're adapting," Elena observed, "evolving their weapons in response to our defense." "Then we evolve faster," Marisol said. She turned to the communications officer. "Has Earth responded to our data packet?" The young lieutenant nodded. "Just came through before they jammed us again. They've activated Protocol Lazarus at all major zoological facilities globally. Full EMI deployment authorization for all trained handlers." Marisol smiled grimly. "Then the real counterattack begins." Commander Chen looked confused. "Protocol Lazarus? I'm not familiar with that contingency." Elena and the scientists exchanged looks before she explained. After first contact protocols were established 50 years ago, some forward-thinking xenobiologists worried about exactly this scenario: biological warfare from an advanced species. Protocol Lazarus was developed as a last resort defense mechanism. Using what resources? Earth's megafauna, Dr. Captry said. The planet's apex predators and largest herbivores, kept in zoological preserves and conservation programs. Lions, tigers, bears, elephants, rhinos, all the species humanity has worked to save from extinction. All the species we've studied, protected, and in many cases, formed deep bonds with over centuries. Understanding dawned on Chen's face. "You've been preparing Earth's most dangerous animals to fight alongside humans in case of alien invasion." "Not precisely to fight," Marcus corrected. "To defend their home planet alongside the species that has appointed itself their guardian." The EMI system was developed to save endangered species. Its military application was always secondary. On the screens, they could see the new alien hunters approaching the colony perimeter, their bodies shifting color to match the Martian landscape. "Time to show them what Raja can do," Elena said, turning to the tiger and its handler. "And what humanity does to those who threaten our family, regardless of species." Marcus nodded and spoke quietly to the massive predator beside him. The tiger's ears flicked forward, and a low rumble emanated from its chest. Not a growl of threat, but a purr of anticipation. 6 hours later, Grand Marshal Xorax stood in stunned silence as the battlefield displays showed the systematic destruction of his hunter forces. The second wave deployment, supposedly improved with adaptive capabilities, had fared even worse than the first. "This cannot be happening," he whispered, watching as a massive striped Earth predator tore through 3 Nyx hunters with shocking efficiency. "The humans have deployed what they call big cats," Vela reported, her voice hollow with disbelief. "Tigers, lions, leopards, apex predators from their world's evolutionary history. But there's more. Our orbital scans are detecting massive energy signatures from Earth itself." "What now?" Xorax demanded. The main display shifted to show Earth's surface. Across all continents, facilities that had previously registered as biological research centers were now pulsing with activity. And emerging from them, moving with clear purpose and coordination, were creatures of all descriptions, some massive and lumbering, others swift and deadly. "They're mobilizing their entire planetary ecosystem," Draz said, awe evident in his voice. "Look there, elephants and rhinoceroses being fitted with armor plating, aquatic mammals being deployed to coastal defenses, birds of prey with enhanced sensory equipment. It's a planetary-scale response." "Impossible," Xorax breathed. "No species could coordinate on this level with sub-sentient creatures." "That's where we fundamentally misjudged them," Vela said. "These creatures aren't sub-sentient to humans. They're family." A communications officer approached nervously. "Grand Marshal, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're requesting to speak with the Krizeri leadership." Xorax hesitated, then nodded curtly. Put it through. The holographic display flickered, then resolved into the image of a human female in a formal uniform adorned with symbols of authority. Behind her stood a diverse group of other humans, each accompanied by different Earth animals, some small and innocuous-looking, others clearly predatory. "I am Admiral Helena Reyes of the United Earth Defense Force," the woman began. Helena recognized her instantly, her mother, who had long served in the UN's Space Defense Program. "I'm transmitting from the Global Species Cooperation Command. To whom am I speaking?" Hexorax drew himself up to his full, imposing height. "I am Grand Marshal Xorax of the Crizeri Empire, conqueror of 1,000 worlds. Your colonies are under our jurisdiction, now human. Your primitive defenses cannot." "Forgive the interruption, Grand Marshal," Helena said calmly, "but I believe you're operating under some misconceptions about Earth's defensive capabilities. What you've encountered so far on Mars is merely our first line of response, domestic partners who live among our colonists. What's being mobilized now is something altogether different." She gestured, and the camera panned to show massive facilities where humans worked alongside creatures of all descriptions, many fitted with variations of the neural interface technology. For thousands of years, humans have studied, protected, and formed bonds with the myriad species of our world, Helena continued. When we realized the universe might contain threats to all Earth life, not just humanity, we developed the Species Cooperation Initiative. Every creature you see here has consented to defend their home planet according to their abilities and understanding. Consented? Xorax spat. They are animals. A new figure stepped forward beside Helena, an older woman with wise eyes and gentle hands that rested on the massive head of a gray wolf. "I am Dr. Maya Okafor, xenobiologist and primary architect of the EMI system. What you call animals, we recognize as people, different from humans in form and cognition, but people nonetheless. The neural interface doesn't control them. It allows us to communicate across the species barrier, to share intention and understanding." On the display behind them, Earth's defenders continued to mobilize, lions fitted with lightweight armor moving alongside armed human soldiers, eagles and falcons with enhanced vision systems soaring above, dolphins and orcas patrolling coastlines, and perhaps most impressively, massive elephants and rhinoceroses being outfitted with what appeared to be defensive weaponry. "We're giving you one opportunity to withdraw your forces and negotiate peace," Admiral Rice stated firmly. "Earth doesn't seek conflict, but we will defend every species of our world with everything we have." Xorax looked to his officers, seeing in their posture what he refused to acknowledge: defeat. Their biological weapons, the pride of the Crizeri Empire, had been countered by something they had never anticipated. A species that didn't conquer its planetary co-inhabitants but partnered with them. "This isn't over," Xorax growled, but the threat sounded hollow even to his own ears. Admiral Rice smiled slightly. "On the contrary, Grand Marshal, I believe it is. You came to our world thinking you could use engineered predators to subdue us. But humans have been walking alongside Earth's greatest predators and most powerful herbivores for our entire evolutionary history. We didn't need to engineer them. We earned their trust and partnership over thousands of generations." She leaned forward, her expression hardening. "You've not just attacked humanity, Xorax. You've threatened the entire Earth biosphere, every species we've sworn to protect. Withdraw now, or discover exactly why Earth's apex predator isn't the lion or the tiger or the bear. It's us," Maya Okafor finished quietly, scratching the wolf's ears. "And we don't fight alone." As the transmission ended, Xorax stood in silence, contemplating the impossible choice before him: retreat in humiliation or face an entire planet of species united in defense of their shared home. Above Mars, the Crizeri ships began powering up their engines, preparing for departure. The age of easy conquests was over. Somewhere in the vast cosmos, they had finally encountered a force that understood what the Crizeri had forgotten long ago: That true strength lies not in domination, but in cooperation. On Mars, Elena Reyes stood with Marisol Rodriguez and Marcus Webb, watching as their unlikely army of Earth's children continued to drive back the alien hunters. Beside them, Raja the tiger lounged with the relaxed confidence of a predator whose territory was once again secure. "Do you think they'll be back?" Marisol asked quietly. Elena scratched the big cat behind his ears, feeling the rumble of his purr through her fingertips. "Perhaps. But next time, they'll know better than to threaten a planet where even the herbivores are willing to fight alongside their predators." Marcus nodded, watching as dogs and horses worked together to herd the last of the alien creatures into containment fields. That's what they fail to understand about Earth. We're not just one species. We're an entire ecosystem that's learned to work together. Beyond the habitat windows, the red Martian dust swirled in the wind, unchanged, and yet somehow different now. This alien world had just witnessed humanity's greatest strength. Not our technology, not our weapons, but our capacity to form bonds across species boundaries, to communicate across the divides of evolutionary history, and to stand together against any threat to our shared home. The sun rose over the horizon, casting long shadows across the Martian landscape, shadows of humans and Earth's children, standing shoulder to paw as the first defenders of two worlds.